So here we are, talking about Darling and the Franxx again. Why? Because we're 2-episode recaps in, might as well keep going. Now some of you may be saying, but we're like 15 episodes in, why start now? Well, remember, it took me like 12 or 13 years to start doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode recaps, and I'm sure there's math that has those two things correlate somehow. I mean, there probably isn't, but we're not here to talk about math. We're here to talk about anime. And this was a pretty damn good episode of an anime. You see, we finally get to where we've been going, that we only learned we were getting to like an episode ago, because Trigger very clearly is more interested in camaraderie than actual plot development. And we see the big battle against everyone's favorite things to fight, generic blue monsters you won't remember in 10 minutes, and oh boy, the way Trigger proved they really don't even care about these things themselves, when it's, what are the two most terrifying things in the world? A shark and a tank. So let's make a shark tank. And then they fight it, and it's cool, and it's awesome, and it's a great action set piece. Everything looks great. I love how there's a lot of scenes that you just feel like you're following the robots as they fight this very hard-to-beat army. Yeah, they're not that hard to beat, but there just feels so many of them, and the size of the tank, you feel the weight of everything, even if I wish it was maybe a little bit more interestingly designed, but it still feels that level of volume, and you get a lot of intrigue. I like seeing how you have these generic black robots for everyone, the generic white robots for the more interesting, probably villain characters, the way they think they're above everyone else, the way one of them refers to them as not human, that's interesting, and the way they all have little horns sort of computer imaged on their heads. That's interesting to me because are they based on 02? Were they cloned from 02? Where do all these kids keep coming from? You don't really know, and that intrigue builds and builds, and hopefully we'll get those answers one day. Let's not Keys Naiver this, people. But what is really interesting is that that's all just meant to complement the little things. Yeah, the real important thing of this episode are those moments of just showing the thoughts in Hero and 02's heads. Those sentences say more about what is going on than any action set piece in the show. Those sentences signify the difference between Hero and everyone else and why Hero and 02 are important. Last week I said Hero was a good character and someone was like, "Heh, I do totally agree with you," and Hero is not a great character for everything. He wouldn't work in, say, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Series or like Durarara or in a lot of other anime, but he's a great complement for this show because in this series, he's kind of the odd man out. You see, everyone in this show is simplistic. Everyone thinks simplistically. Everyone is a simplistic archetype. This is done for a very specific reason, and that is because they follow one simplistic goal, whatever Papa tells them. You see, when the episode started and I realized we weren't going to address what's going on in maybe, say, Ichigo's head as she contemplates everything she did last week, I was a little turned off, because they kind of did this a couple times, just sort of put off dealing with what should be important things for these kids till later. But then it kind of hit me. This is a great representation of what separates our two leads from everyone else. And that is, they are straightforward on the mission. We get in, we kick ass, we get out. But Hero and Ichigo, not Ichigo 02, are so lost in their own thoughts that the only things they can get out are just one-off sentences. It's not even dialogue. It's not talking. Why do you think not a lot of emotion is shown on their faces during this? Because they're lost. They're lost people. And that's sort of the thing is, we see in the beginning of the show, Hero has a very simplistic goal. He wants to pilot a Franxx so he can feel like he means something. Well, this is shown to kind of be a contrast to what he was like as a kid. When he was little, he was adventurous. He wanted to know more about the world. He thought more than other kids. He wanted individuality in the way the kids didn't want. And then all that was sort of taken away from him, and he was sort of lost. That's why he's this simplistic, because he kind of because he's missing something. And 02 completes it because 02 also was kind of this, obviously in more easy to notice ways, different from everyone else. She was this animal. She dreamed of wanting something more, to be human, just as Hero wanted something more, to see the world and be his own man. And that was stripped away from them. But when they meet, they can sort of bring that back, and that's kind of where we are now. Like, think about it. Shut up, phone. They don't start having words about each other until they're about to reunite, until they're directly thinking about each other. This is, again, an important way to show where everything is going. This is a show about how we meet each other and how our bonds break and how people try to manipulate that. And, well, ultimately you can't. Love prevails, as cheesy it is to say. And that's what was cool about this. Everything about sort of what's been building up sort of built to this moment. Many people saw that Ichigo kiss last weekend and are like, I must attack the studio. I was like, I want to see what this means. And we got that. It's that idea that you can't force those emotions. You can't make someone feel a certain way. You can try to. You can try to be an evil, faceless government that tries to do that to people, but you can't. And in the same way, Ichigo wanted Hiro to care about him, and she does want to protect him and want to save him and also do right by everyone else and follow these goals, but ultimately, she can't do everything. And as much as she wants to, there are things that are out of her control, and in this episode, she accepts that. That's character growth. That's development. That's what all this has been building to, and where we'll all go for here. I think we're going to get some really creepy revelations coming soon about where everyone came from and what's going on in the world. Or at least we better. We're like 15 episodes in. We kind of need some stuff. But other than that, yeah, this was pretty great. Great use of metaphor, great use of visual. I wish other anime would adopt these certain tactics. Looking at you, Yu-Gi-Oh! And then finally, we end with, speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the summoning of an Earthbound Immortal. If you don't know what that is, those are Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards from the one that had card games on motorcycles. That's probably your frame of reference. No, seriously, I love it's just a giant arm. Like, it just comes out of the ground. Maybe the generic evil blonde kid that's in every mecha show knows what it is. Maybe he doesn't, but it's like, okay, we did Shark Tank. What tops Shark Tank? An arm. Just a giant arm. Don't get me wrong, I love the size, I love the scale. I don't know how they're going to fight this thing, though, or even if they will. Oh, also, one last thing, the whole Sterlitzia needs to be in human form. Why? Why can't it just stay a tiger? It seemed to be doing better. But whatever. Those are my thoughts on this week. Tell me what you thought on this episode in the comment section below. If you would like the minimalism, or if maybe the big action gets to you. This is a very sort of Rorschach test show. You get out of it what you get out of it. Tell me that below, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and tell me if there's any other anime you want me to talk about.